January was like 6 months long, but it's finally over, so here is what I read and watched in January. The first one I read was Days at the Murasaki bookstore, and I kind of picked this up on a whim, and then I also just decided to randomly read it. From the beginning of summer to early spring, I lived at the Murasaki bookshop. I spent that period of my life in the spare room on the second floor of the store, trying to bury myself in books. The cramped room barely got any light and everything felt damped. It smelled constantly of musty old books. But I will always remember the days I spent there, because that's where my real life began, and I know without a doubt that if not for those days, the rest of my life would have been bland, monotonous, and lonely. The Murasaki bookshop is precious to me. It's a place I'll never forget. Let me preface this by saying that I never thought I'd pick this book up. I don't know, I knew it wasn't a romance book, but in my head it was just one of those like cheesy romance bookstore novels that you can see all over the bookshops at the moment. Which, nothing wrong with those, but that's just not my reading taste. And then I actually read through the back one time and I was like, oh, this might resonate with me, and it did. I really enjoyed the first half, and basically I would recommend this to you if you're kind of like lost and trying to find your path in life and just want a cozy, reassuring read that everything will turn out great, and even if it doesn't for a while, that's also completely okay. And I think I really needed this, and I had some really great lines in here that I really appreciated. I liked the first part better than the second one in here. I do not know if I'll read the second book. I have to read some reviews first, but this was the first one I read in January. The second one I read was Immortal Dark by Tigers Germa, and oh my god, this was so great. I think I started in December, but I read most of it in January. And oh my god, I love this. I love vampire books. I'm like obsessed with vampire books. And this one is so inclusive and so wonderful and so romantic, but like not annoyingly romantic. And I'll read you the blurb. Bloodthirsty vampire, innocent maiden, think again. Orphaned heiress Kedan Adain grew up far from the hidden society she was born into, where human bloodlines gain power through vampire companionship. When her sister June disappears, Kedan is convinced a vampire stole her, the very vampire bond to their family, the cruel yet captivating Susenyos Sagard. To find her sister, Kedan must infiltrate the elite Oxley University and survive living with Susenyos, even as he does everything he can to drive her away. As Kedan uncovers the heart of the ruthless vampire underworld, she grows determined to bring Oxley to its knees. But when her thirst for revenge collides with Susenyos' lust for blood, the pair become entangled in a game of seductive desires and murderous secrets. The first in a deliciously dark, dangerously romantic black vampire trilogy, and I did not know this wasn't a standalone. The shock I went through when I finished it, and I was like, wait a second, there's more coming? If you're interested in vampires at all, or you want to branch out from romance to something dark that isn't dark romance, because I have some feelings about dark romance, and you want to read more inclusive, this is it. And it's also got the Dark Academia vibes, which I love. Dark Academia and vampires, sign me up. The next book I read has to be my favorite of the month and my most spontaneous one, because I didn't have this a day beforehand, and then I did have it, and then I was so excited that I finally have it in my hands that I immediately read it, which is Slewfoot by Brom, which has been on my list for so goddamn long. First of all, it's so floppy, which is great, because I don't know if you've noticed, but I like to bend the heck out of my books, which for this one I didn't have to do, but I did anyway. But I annotated this so much, which I haven't done for a long time, and this is definitely my favorite read of the year so far, which it's funny because it's only January, but I did read quite a few books, and I can see this being my favorite of the year. I don't know if I can describe it. I'll read you the blurb and then I'll tell you some more from my own perspective. Set in colonial New England, Slewfoot is a tale of magic and mystery, of triumph and terror from acclaimed author and artist Brom. An ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him Father, Slayer, Protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, Demon, Devil. To Abatha, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he's the only one she can turn to for help. Together, they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. This just made me want to reread it again. I don't even care. First of all, cover, gorgeous. There's also some beautiful artwork in here. Got so many beautiful lines. And the story is just so well done. There's so much pieces of real witches history in there. But there's also like sprinkles of the power of love and mostly the power of rage. There's just so many great things about this book. And I also dog-eared a bunch of pages that I wanted to go back to and read again. And I will be rereading this year probably. Don't hold me on that, but I might. If you're interested in gothic or like eerie witchy stories, it's so creepy, like actually creepy, and I loved it a lot, and this has a special place in my heart now. Let's get to the last 3 books I read, which, if you haven't seen already, I posted a reading vlog of, because it's a series, and I don't usually read fantasy that much, but I read the entire Poppy War series, and if you want my in-depth thoughts, you have to check out my reading vlog, because I talked a lot about them in there. This follows Rin, who, in an attempt of escaping a forced marriage, she goes to study at the most prestigious school, and this very quickly turns into a war novel and about what's right and wrong during war. Brilliant. I really don't want to give too much away if you intend to read this, so I love these a lot. If I hadn't read Slewfoot, these 3 would be the top of the month. It just gets better. The first one's already great, but they keep on getting better. And those are the books I read. I also started reading Alice in Wonderland because I have a beautiful copy of it and I've been wanting to read it for a long time, but I'm nowhere close to finishing it, so that will be my next wrap up. Let's talk about the films I watched, which I'm so excited to talk about because it's been a very good movie watching month. Starting off with my favorite one is Nosferatu, directed by Robert Eggers, starring Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult, Bill Skarsgård, many talented people. I watched it the second it got released in Germany because I was so excited, and it fueled my gothic love so much. I don't think it's on camera, but I have a Dracula poster right above me, so if you can't tell, I love vampires and I love Dracula. One of my favorite books, one of my favorite stories. If you're unaware of what Nosferatu is about, it's a copy of Bram Stoker's Dracula story. They just didn't have the rights to call it that back in the day, and this is a remake of the original Nosferatu, but it's also very much its own piece of art. It's a gothic story about obsession. Robert Eggers did a brilliant job. He understood his vision and he went with it, and the cinematography in this one is just incredible, as well as the costuming, even though it's not entirely accurate. And I'll read you the letterboxd review, the letterboxd synopsis. A gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and a terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. And let's just say Bill Skarsgård's Count Olog goes crazy. It was so cool to watch. I was so afraid going into this movie because everyone was raving about how creepy and scary it is, and I usually don't watch horror. I didn't find it scary at all, and I very much, obviously, if it wasn't already obvious, gave it 5 stars. Then I rewatched Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, starring Winona Ryder, Gary Oldman, many great people. Again, I rewatched this because the friend I went to see Nosferatu with hadn't seen this one yet, and I love this one. It's so cunty and dramatic, and I won't give you a synopsis or review because I love it. I've seen it many times and it's just Dracula's story. And it's pretty brilliant, and it came out in 1992. I then rewatched the last 3 Harry Potter movies. It was part of a yearly rewatch. I do not support J.K. Rowling though, so we'll continue. I then watched American Werewolf in London, which I've been wanting to watch for so long. The film came out in 1981. It's directed by John Landis, starring David Norton, Jenny Agutter, Griffin Dunn. This follows these 2 dudes that go backpacking in London, and one of them gets turned into a wolf, and then it's just this whole thing of acceptance. And I don't know what to tell you, but I kept on thinking that this movie seemed very homosexual. The synopsis is as following. American tourists David and Jack are savaged by an unidentified vicious animal whilst hiking on the Yorkshire moors. Retiring to the home of a beautiful nurse to recuperate, David soon experiences disturbing changes to his mind and body. And this, especially for the time it came out, has one of the most stunning transformation scenes I've ever seen. It's so well done. And even to this day, I haven't seen many great transition scenes. And this, I thought, was very great. And yes, I did think that this had some very queer-coded undertones. In, let's just phrase it like, would you off yourself for me, bro? At first I didn't know if I would like it, but I did. It's not one of my favorites by far, but it's a great movie and I would rewatch it. I would recommend you watch it if you want to see a great piece of 80s horror. I think this might have been classified horror. Then I watched House Moving Castle 2004, and this was such a beautiful movie. It's one of my best friend's favorites, so we watched it together, and I hadn't seen it before. And I do not want to say anything about the plot because I don't want to give anything away. But if you have yet to watch it, please do. It's a great movie, and it has such a deep and thoughtful message behind it. It's just very beautiful and romantic and beautifully made. Then I watched Deadpool and Wolverine, came out last year, directed by Sean Levy, and it stars Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, Emma Corrin. It's just a fun movie. Let's talk about the last 2 movies I watched in January. The first one will have an in-depth review on my channel next week, I think, and it's Night Bitch. Published 2024, directed by Marielle Heller, starring Amy Adams, Scoot McNairy. And I watched this because I love the book that this is based on, and that's also why I filmed a review on it. And Night Bitch is about a mother who thinks she's turning into a dog. I'm not telling you my review, you'll just have to wait till my next video because I have many thoughts. And let's just say I gave it 1 star, and then I'll talk about the last movie. And next to Nosferatu, my favorite movie I watched in January, which was just last night. No, the night before last night, which was Queer. Queer, directed by Luca Guadagnino, and I was very excited to see what he did with the story. And I went into this not knowing much. I knew it's adapted from a semi-autobiographical book by William Burroughs, and at first and during the movie and for a bit after, I was very confused, but I also understood a lot of it, but I just wanted to know more about the symbolism, and I do not think this movie is for everyone. 1950, William Lee, an American expat in Mexico City, spends his days almost entirely alone, except for a few contacts with other members of the small American community. His encounter with Eugene Allerton, an expat former soldier, new to the city, shows him for the first time that it might be finally possible to establish an intimate connection with somebody. This is starring Daniel Craig and Drew Starkey and Jason Schwartzman. So well done. I just am completely in awe and obsessed with Luca's cinematography, and I love nothing more than a movie which has me so infatuated and interested but also confused that I just want to research and get my fingers in there and just get every piece of information I can get on this movie, which is why I bought the book yesterday. If you love weird and disturbing queer movies, this one's on the top of that list. And it's so deep, but it doesn't use a lot of words to explain to you, which I like, because sometimes movies over explain things, which, for example, Night Bitch did. Please let me know what you watched or read in January, and also let me know your thoughts on any of these books or films, because I love discussing the media I consumed, even if we don't have the same opinion. Makes it even better to discuss. And that's it. I think I'll be doing this every month for the 10 people that watch these. Okay.